Can't really call it to order because we're not a quorum, and we may get a quorum at some point, at which point we'll call it to order. But we can do a lot of what we need to do tonight with just what's here. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Just the resignation.
Yeah, we have to add, I added it under correspondence. We have a resignation letter from Jason Sperling that we'll deal with. And then I wanted to add a quick thing under new business. I'm not sure that since the last budget is passed and really this board is essentially approving bills and pay orders and the minutes that approve the bills and pay orders, and there's not a lot of actual business that's gonna happen. I'm not sure it's worth having BCTV come. It's a slight savings for us to not have these meetings recorded, and, you know, not recording meetings where you don't get a quorum, you know. I talked to Bill about it. He said, you know, bring it up and see if anybody has any feelings, one way or the other about it.
Certainly the real action is going to be at the new West River Board
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too, is, I mean, the real action is at the West River Board level. We're certainly going to continue to tape those meetings and you know, encourage public attendance. And this, it just sort of sounds like, you know, it just sort of feels like unnecessary work and expense. So.
You could ask our community member. She has an opinion. The one community member we have. Your vote doesn't get BCTV at your house anyways, right?
I can get it online.
You get it online, true.
Yeah, you can get it online.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not any like transparency thing. It's just
Right.
literally
There's
you know, I
nothing.
don't think there's anything that's you know, of substance going to happen much here anymore.
I mean, if something happens to come up, and if we know in advance, I mean, would
Oh,
it be
yeah.
possible to then
Yeah,
have
we
them
could.
come?
We could certainly.
But
do that.
if we're just
Yep.
trying
Okay.
to get by.
All right. Wow, I don't even have to move that to new businesses.
So to your agenda, is there opportunity for me to speak to some things?
Are they on the agenda? Or are you bringing?
No,
us
they're not on the,
things?
no, there's something that I
Well,
want to bring
members
to
of the
you.
public is next, so go ahead. What would you like to talk about?
So right away, okay, good. Well, you know, this isn't the first time I've mentioned two pieces with voting on the budget. One, the suggestion would be to,
Before you go any further, there will be no more Leland and Gray budget votes.
right,
The budget now will be just the West River
Right.
vote, which can actually, you know, if we choose to have it voted from the floor, I believe. Right now, it's set up to be voted by Australian ballot.
Right.
And probably similar to the Leland and Gray budget vote, where it came to the board as a petition from the public to please change from voting on the floor to voting by Australian ballot. We would look for some indication from, you know, the general public in the form of a petition or something where we had a lot of support, and then changing that would actually require a vote.
right, okay. And the reason I'm bringing it to you tonight is because the next MUD meeting, I guess, is next Monday night.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be in town, and I just don't want to miss that window of opportunity of when it's brought up, suggested, and then possibly pursued. So I know this board probably wouldn't be doing that work, but since some of you will be at the MUD meeting, maybe bring this up in that conversation. And so the one would be moving the vote to town meeting day, but not necessarily as a floor vote, but still stay with Australian ballot, because then we'll just get so much more voter participation. Our numbers for town meeting are so much higher in each individual town than collectively we got a little over 200.
Well, I know feedback from all the town clerks is they would prefer us not to have that vote on town meeting day by Australian ballot for the towns that actually hold a meeting. It's extra personnel, extra difficult for them to run an Australian ballot and a live meeting in Jamaica and Townsend and Brookline where they actually vote, you know, where they actually have a moderated long town meeting. So that I know, and we had talked at the West River level about actually having the meeting after town meeting.
The
The vote.
Yeah, the vote after.
And and an annual meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, we can hold it later.
Right. So the idea being for greater voter participation.
Yes.
So that's one piece. I also called the Secretary of State's office and talked to J.P. Israel, maybe, or Ireland, what's a country name? And it began with I, yeah, JP. And so I talked to him about the possibility of how the ballot is worded, and I know it's by state statute and how it's in articles, what is it, number 16, Article 11, and it tells very clearly how it must be worded, which it is right now. When I mentioned to him about the possibility of including an additional sentence that would say what that budget actually, what that amount reflects with increase, decrease to the actual budget, not just the equalized pupil spending. He said that now is the time to make that any of those changes. It is by state statute, but that's the time, and to suggest it, maybe with Emily being on the board, there could be some way that she could bring that up, or how, whatever the avenue is to bring that up, because that also then represents a dollar, a percentage figure that people, I think, understand much better than that equalized pupil spending when it says it's 12% or 6% or whatever the percentages are. Last year it was 12%. I think this year was 4.6 above. But that's not above the actual budget figures.
Since the enrollment declines and the actual spending is determined on per pupil spending,
Right.
it's a fair representation of what's going on.
For equalized pupil, but the actual budget dollars, in fact, this year's budget was a negative 6%, no, 0.6%.
It would also be fair to then say, and this will increase your taxes by X percent, or decrease your taxes by X percent, but, we
could, but.
that's what the state mandated.
Right. So this is the time, so the gentleman at the Secretary of State's office said this is the time because with many of the boards and the districts merging, becoming unified boards, that now is the time to make a change. So we're.
But then it has to be done legislatively.
That would have to be done
So
legislatively, so.
would the
Reach
board
out.
here, or, well, you're not going to be the board, it's the MUD board, but I guess this is where I'm asking, when is that the appropriate
I don't
time?
think the board would necessarily be the one to contact the legislature. I think that individual citizens should
Citizens
contact their
are-
legislators
he
to
did
ask to have that changed.
Yeah, he did also say, that the superintendent could also pursue investigating it. So that's why because I know I'm not going to be here next week when you're having the MUD meeting, and I don't know, I don't want to miss that window of opportunity that, the annual meeting was last month and now we can't do anything about it for another year. So that's all, I'm just presenting those two pieces because you'll be at the meeting next week. I know not all these board members are on that board, but maybe with Emily also being part of that, we could look at that. What's the thought on that?
Okay.
Joe, if I can just add one thing, the idea of having it later gives us more time to prepare a budget and be more thoughtful, which is a good thing. There's a tipping point somewhere where if we go too late, I know you mentioned after town meeting, where the window of hiring teachers is sort of a February to April kind of a window. The longer we push off a vote, particularly if it doesn't pass and you have to hold off on posting jobs,
Gotcha.
that could be detrimental as well. So just keeping in mind that balancing that with the window of hiring.
Okay.
It's not great to be as early as we are necessarily,
Yeah.
but now I can post things because I know things are approved.
Yeah, I know.
So
that-
there's a tipping point there.
I know at that level, that board, we had talked about, what made sense.
Right.
And certainly pushing it to the end of February, beginning of March, gave more time to budget,
Yeah.
more thoughtful. We didn't know if town meeting made sense, and the town clerks pushed back a little bit on town meeting day. So we said, well, what if we had it right after town meeting day?
Right.
I don't think we'd push farther into March, but again, when we actually start figuring out when that's gonna be, it may end up being end of February,
Right.
just before town meeting, so that addresses that.
Do you guys, sort of tied to Gerald's question, do you guys have an annual meeting this year? Or is it not because you're not really in effect, there's no actual annual meeting? 'Cause when would it be that you would make that decision?
There
I guess that's
is
part of
an
the question
annual
you're asking.
meeting.
Isn't it March 13th?
No,
For
that's
this, for this
there-
board or the mud board?
the mud board.
Oh,
There is a mud board annual meeting warning for. I didn't bring the mud board stuff with me.
But it's coming up.
There is going to be an annual meeting for the mud board.
And that would be the time when you would set the one for the following year and the voting and all that
Right.
stuff. Okay.
Right.
So,
So there will be an opportunity to discuss that.
yeah.
Okay, great. So whenever, however, so would you, as far as that part for the, how the ballot is worded, then you're suggesting more of a citizen
I mean, I think.
suggestion, petition,
I mean, my
superintendent?
feeling is I think the citizens are gonna get more traction if you're individually contacting, or if you're asking Bill perhaps to do that, or combined effort, rather than having a board do it. I mean, I feel like the personal pressure on, a board doesn't vote for
Right.
legislators, but people do, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, yeah, so
That
I just
personal
want to
touch
not
might be
miss
better.
the
Yeah.
vote somewhere.
But to organize a movement around what you can add and what you can't add, and those
Sure.
kinds of things would be good,
Yeah, but he said this is the time to start thinking.
Well, they're in
of this.
session, yeah.
Everything's changing.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I would say that's the way to do that for those reasons.
Okay, so maybe I'll follow it up with just a conversation or email to Bill. And then within, I guess I won't be at the next bud meeting, but whenever you find out when they have their annual
Good.
meeting or look for.
It's actually, I think it's been warned. I
Is it?
just don't remember when.
Okay, I'll look on the website and have it.
Yeah.
I know it mentioned Monday's meeting. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Moving right along. We have correspondence from Jason Sperling to the board dated today, yesterday, actually. It says, I would like to notify you that I will not return to Leland and Gray after my leave next year. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, Jason Sperling. So we just, essentially, it's a letter of resignation. He's on leave this year,
The
or
board had
next
already- You guys
academic
already
year.
approved the leave for him
that
for
we
next year.
approved.
does that impact us and?
Because he's not returning, we would just hire a permanent person, which is part of why he's doing this. He wants to make sure we're not handcuffed by hiring a one-year person if he wasn't sure he'd come back, and then I guess he made the decision to not return. So in effect, he's resigning effective the end of this year, really, because the leave doesn't really have any benefit to it for him.
Right.
So he doesn't really become our employee. There's no element to that for him, so.
So if we were actually in session, we would have to accept his resignation. We can have the officers do it, just as a sort of general business matter. You know, I wish him well. Where is he teaching?
So his family is
for 2
going to be
years?
spending the year in India teaching. So that's what he's going to be doing. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And it's not an American school either, it's an actual like Indian school in India.
Teaching in India?
Yep, and living
Wow.
in the
So he speaks,
shack or something.
he speaks whatever, huh?
No, they're gonna figure
Or
it
he's
out.
learning?
I think they're gonna live
Wow.
it and figure it out, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's an adventure.
But it's that a lot of teachers do, like Rents is doing the year as an American school, which is a very different experience.
Right.
Very, kind of protected kind of setting. This is not. He said when you walk home from school if it's dark out, you have to bang pots so leopards don't come get you. And so it's gonna be real.
Wow, that's really amazing.
I prefer to
Good for
be
him.
leopard protected.
Yeah,
myself,
I like it here where there aren't any leopards. All right. So, under new business, just the BCTV thing that I brought up. I think Twyla has an excellent suggestion to, if we do have something that we need to deal with, obviously call them in and get it recorded. And I'll just explore, I know we might have an existing contract or whatever, and we can just, look at the terms of that if we have to get out of it or keep it going for a little while or whatever, but, probably no more TV star for you guys. Sorry.
Stop wearing my tie.
Yeah. And all my phone calls will start with, I saw you on TV. Okay, so, administrative reports. Dominic, what do you got for us? Anything? Anything going on?
I've not prepared anything this month. I've been writing scholarship applications.
How's that
It's more
going?
important.
That's way more important.
Yeah, it's not much fun.
Have you picked a school?
Yep.
Where you going?
Southern Maine Community College.
Cool.
So the fire suppression program.
Go
Fire-
for fire science and
Fire science.
public safety live-in program.
Really awesome.
Very
Thank
cool.
you for doing
Good
that.
luck.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I know you'll do well. Did you finish your EMT yet?
March
March?
10th is the test.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you got it. You got it. All right, you're forgiven for no report. Bob, I see your report. It's a beautiful driver's ed car.
Yep, so the lease that you guys
It's
approved.
the first color photo driver's ed report.
It's a nice brown that they had it laying around in their on their lot for a while, but it's a Camry, brand new. We traded in the old 10-year-old car. We ended up with lease payments that were under 300. And-
247, Lori said.
Yeah, so which was good, and we
That's great.
ended up with I think a 3-year lease, so which is what she wanted. So yep, pretty happy with that. The only thing really of note, just you may have heard that we had the fire department here one morning. We had a pipe burst in a heating system, and it sprayed hot steam antifreeze all over the drama shop in the basement. Done, and it's a relatively new heating unit. It's just an elbow on the coil burst. Was very fortunate there were no students in there at the time or staff, because it could potentially have burned some folks. But it set off the alarms, and yeah,
Wow.
Was there damage done?
minimal. Ed and Sharon did some cleanup down there, and they have to replace the part. But I don't think there was really any other thing lost. We had our forensics teacher had a forensics lab set up down there, a crime scene that she brought kids over to later. And so she had to reset it up, but that was really, I think, the damage to drama stuff was minimal. So,
That might have been fun of the firefighters down
When they
there.
came
What
in,
is
it's like
going on?
corpse in the ground, yeah.
Well, it just made the crime scene all that more
Yeah.
realistic.
True. And it was just
Mess.
also super fortunate that didn't happen while the kids were in
Yeah.
there investigating the crime
Yeah,
scene. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Can I ask a couple
Certainly.
questions? So, are we allowed to know, is Rent's coming back?
We've not heard yet, for
Okay.
sure. So he has a request for second-year leave, which I'm holding off on until we can get some confirmation as to what his plan is.
I noted that the school choice applications are due tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have you received?
Choices, yeah, applications to the school that you're departing from is what.
So you would have received them from our students, have you?
I received 2. Today we had 3 students from another school come and spend a day touring, and we have 4th and I believe a 5th application to come to us as well.
So that's how that process works,
Yep.
right? Before the applications are due, they come,
Sometimes, yep, this particular family wanted to, just 3 kids, and they wanted to see the place and spend a day shadowing some students. and, They seem to be,
so it looks like a net positive to you.
it typically has been here, yeah,
Okay.
yep. Yep, it's very few that leave, and, there's not a ton that come either, but we get, usually it's the Grafton Athens group that we get the most.
Right.
Right.
And if it's a Journey East year, we'll get 1 or 2 who join the program for that year and do it as a school choice. So, but yeah, we'll definitely be on the plus side of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Anything else in yours you want to talk about?
I was going to mention that Lori had a message. I don't remember what it was about. It was, the new information about the tax stuff. She's based on some of the calculations on what budgets, what schools were preparing. The state anticipated budgets to be looking at like a 3.5% increase across the state. Average was actually lower than that so far. And so that will impact the CLA or the yield. Maybe it's the yield in a positive way for us as far as tax rates. She doesn't have the exact figures yet because it's not finalized, but the news from the tax office is sounding positive.
Oh, that's
That the
great.
numbers that we estimated for tax impact will actually be a little slightly less
Very
of an
nice.
increase.
Very nice.
And I don't know if you guys saw in the Reformer yesterday, but the BUHS there was an article about their budget preparation and the struggles that they've had with, because of not doing the merger, they have the bottom, the hold safe stuff on the Phantom students has dropped away, and they are starting to significantly drop. And so they are filling that right now with some reserve fund money, well, to the tune of 1.1 or 1.2 million. And so that gap for them, they're not cutting to do that, they're maintaining with reserve fund money. And so thinking about how we got into the bit of trouble we did, one of the struggles that we ran into is that we created that artificial thing. So the second year, when it dropped further, there was no cushion there anymore, and we get the initial cut plus the second year's drop in those equalized pupil counts. So there was some, the article talked about how the committee that studied it was concerned about what that meant for the future and future reduction. So we're not in this alone, but they had a reserve to use, and they're using it up, and I guess that's what Lori said, that tax rate implication was that people are using those reserves more frequently now as a way, rather than reducing spending. And so that's why those state increases weren't as high as people expected to be.
Do you know if their drop is as precipitous as ours is?
I don't know, I wasn't gonna rely on the
Yeah,
data
I
in
didn't
the
see any
reformer.
data there.
Yeah, they didn't have great data.
It was kind of, the article was hard to follow, whether they were talking about the high school or the
Oh,
whole
middle school,
town SU, or whether it was the numbers didn't seem to jive with my understanding of what the high school has for numbers. But I know that they're dropping, and
Yeah.
everybody is, so.
Yeah. It's nice to know we're not alone, right?
Right.
Okay. I know everybody got the email with Bill's February cabinet report and his numerous attachments. He's at a Two Rivers annual meeting tonight. So if there are any questions, anything that you want to get clarification on, or anything from Bill or any of the WCSU cabinet, you can just email me or him or both of us and let you know. We talked about the DMG report and the meeting of the WCSU officers with Secretary Holcomb last time. And then it's just a lot of good information about what's going on, the WCSU meeting schedule, and the report on Act 46, where we are around the state. A lot of mergers. That map is the color of merger. I was surprised. But if you have anything that, any questions, comments that you want to make, feel free. Okay, just FYI kind of thing, the driver's ed lease. In the beginning, we approved a lease with Duran Toyota, and then it didn't work out, and we approved another lease with whatever the Subaru dealership was, Brattleboro Subaru, and the lease ended up going back to Duran Toyota because Toyota came back with a lease program. So just sort of as a housekeeping thing, we actually approved it, but that's the one that they went with, that we sort of.
So did the executive committee then approve the Subaru and then approve Durant again?
Well, the board approved
The first one?
the
Yeah.
Durand, and then the board approved Subaru.
Oh, okay.
And then they ended up going back to Durand. So just so you know which one of our approvals actually got used, it's the Durand
Okay.
one. We don't really have to approve it again.
No, I wouldn't think so.
And based on that, I did sign it.
Particularly
so
because
that
I'm
we
assuming the
could get
parameters
lease.
of the loan of the lease weren't that.
Nothing changed.
No,
Okay,
nothing
then it's-
changed.
yeah, all right.
It
Price
just,
got better.
yeah, the price actually
Well,
got better because Toyota had some program that they had discontinued that they then put back into play or something. Lori was giving me all the details, and I was like, I don't know. Okay, good. We're saving money. Yay. Okay, so we don't have any buildings and grounds thing other than the burst pipe. I know that the West River Board is working to have, sort of an entire district-wide buildings and grounds report put together, and then we'll make some
Is there a
decisions
committee of the
about.
board for that?
There is they're not, it's not called a committee, it's called
Public citizens or
a
something?
learning group.
A learning group, yeah.
But yes, there's a buildings and grounds learning group, and they're gonna get the reports when the audits in Newfane and Jamaica are finished. They'll have all of them, and there'll be a sort of, okay, now what do we do with all the facilities to make everything right and safe and whole? We don't have any policy action. Bills and pay orders, Twyla's reviewed them. I'm halfway through them. We'll finish them up and sign off as officers and get those taken care of. we can't do the consent agenda because we don't have a quorum. Any other business, folks? Okay. I don't think we can have an executive session because we didn't call ourselves to order, but we can, as officers, meet. And then I think we can take testimony from other board members as to the superintendent's evaluation so we can get it. But that'll just be the four of us. If there's nothing else, we won't adjourn because we never called it to order, but we're done.